inverse functions, and a function will have an inverse if that function is one-to-one function. A few steps to follow before we inverse a function, and we swap the x and the y. Where you have the x, you replace with y, and vice versa. You make the y the subject, and once the y is met to be the subject, that is basically the inverse. And the domain of the inverse function is the range of the original function. So the domain of the original is the range of the inverse. Alright, now if the inverse function is inputted into the original function, the answer is basically x. So in other words, it's a mirror image. And this is few things. So the range of the inverse is the domain of the original function, and vice versa. All right, let's have a look at an example based on this. So now we have this example where for the function f such that r maps to r, f of x equals to 4e to the power of 5x minus 1. Find the domain of the inverse and the rule of the inverse. So that's what we are going to do. So first and foremost, and the domain of the inverse, the range of the original function, obviously this forms an asymptote. It's an exponential function, so definitely it forms an asymptote. So the asymptote is -1. So the range of the original function, the range of f of x, is basically -1 to positive infinity. So it goes above, so that's positive, so it goes above. Alright, so now the domain of the inverse function is -1 and positive infinity to positive infinity. Alright, and now let's do our inversing. So f of x is basically the same as y. We replace that with x, so that means x equals to 4 e to the power of 5y, and we make y the subject. So that gives us, by taking this to the other side, divided by 4. So now we need to get rid of the exponential function, so by introducing the inverse log, the natural log. All right, now so that's basically 1. So we'll end up getting 5 on my left side, of my right side, I should say. So dividing 5 on both sides, so that gives us 1 over 5 natural log x plus 1 over 4. So therefore my inverse f of x is and that's how you do the inversing. All right, let's have a look at another example based on this concept of inversing. Find the inverse of f of x and the domain. So this is restricted. So now the range of the original function. So now it's starting from 0. So 0 is included. So that my range. So this is my domain. It's a restricted domain. So range of f of x must be, well, if I substitute 0 wherever I have x, well, that's going to be 0 over 2. So that's going to be 2 over 2, which is 1. So 1 to positive infinity. So that is my range of the, so the range will be, it's going to be included, square bracket, to positive infinity. So that's my range. So now the domain of the inverse, dom of inverse, is going to be 1 to positive infinity. All right, now we need to swap, and so to do so I'm going to say x e to the power of y. So we need to rewrite. So I'm going to put a bracket. So I'm going to take this as a fraction, take it out. I'm going to write this as a fraction as well. I'm going to say 1 over e to the power of y. So I've taken wherever I have x and replaced with y, and where I had y, which is f of x, replaced with x. So get rid of this 2, so that means so that's going to be 2x equals to e to the power of y plus 1 over e of y. So I'm going to say let e to the power of y equals to a. So if that's a, so that means I need to get rid of the denominator by saying a 1 over a. So I multiply a on everything. So that gives me 2x a squared plus 1. So that gives me, I'll put this one in, equal to 0. So I can use the quadratic formula. So I'm solving for a. So this is my b value. Just use a different color based on the Alright, so that gives us 2x plus or minus over 2. And we know that a equals to e to the power. So that means e to the power of y equals to Alright, so our next thing, so we can actually take the 4 out, to be honest. So that gives us x squared minus 1. So take the square root. So I could actually have 2 out. I should say, just do that. Much easier. If I take the common factor out and I get the square root of that, we just do this. 2, and I can simplify the 2's. So that means y, if I introduce natural log, so I can cross the 2's. So I'll end up getting, so I'll take the positive because it's only the positive from 0 to, so that means I'm just gonna not include the negative. So the negative is not included. Therefore, the inverse equals to and that's it.